Good morning. As we think about the life of the mind and our thought lives, we talked about what we called gospel warfare and our thoughts, how we have to be able to take captive every thought and bring it into obedience to Christ, particularly when it comes to the aberrant thoughts that come from the world about Christ, bad ideas, bad theology. That's really the context of that text, is taking captive bad ideas. But I think there's something else about the life of the mind that we should give consideration to, and it relates to that. So I think you may have experienced before sharing the gospel with somebody, talking about Christianity, engaging maybe even issues of Judeo-Christian morality, and you felt like while you were talking that the ideas that you're just talking past people. I've heard people before talk about sharing the gospel with somebody, and it's like it just went pew and didn't even get soaked in at all. And you're like, they just don't get it. Well, I think there's actually scripture about the mind and those who don't believe that tells us something about that. So 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 3 and 4. And even if our gospel is veiled, Paul writes, it is veiled to those who are perishing. In their case, the God of this world, the God of this eon is the idea in Greek, this age, has an idea of the world with a special attention to its ideas, the zeitgeist of the culture. The God of this zeitgeist, we might think of it, something like that, has blinded the minds of unbelievers to keep them from seeing the light of the gospel of the glory of Christ, who is the image of God. They can't see Jesus. Why? Because they've been blinded. He's blinded their minds to apprehend it. So one of the things we need to note is that when it comes to our minds are fertile ground for spiritual warfare. Now, what that means is that then when we share information with somebody where we're trying to get them to mentally apprehend the gospel first, to understand it, to begin to see it clearly, we need to recognize that it's not merely a logical or intellectual quest, but rather it's a deeply spiritual quest. So prayer has to lead, because prayer helps us prepare our minds, right? I mean, think of Romans 12, that we about the renewal of our own minds, the transformation of our own lives. We need our minds renewed, even as believers. How much does someone who, without the gospel, need their mind not just renewed, but their mind, the veil lifted off and removed, right? So, be prayerful. Be prayerful about other minds. This is important, because otherwise you're going to be frustrated as you share the gospel and try to communicate to people who need to be able to grapple with deep thoughts about God and deep thoughts about Christ and deep thoughts about their own sin. Well, you got to lead with prayer, because it really is a battle in the mind. May the Lord bless you today.